Good evening, everyone. We'll call this regular council meeting of August 13th to order, and we're pleased this evening to welcome our MLA, Laurie Carr. Laurie, thank you so much for coming this evening.
You're welcome.
Much appreciated. And I'll just go around council, see if we have any questions. Again, thank you for coming, and I'll open the floor to council.
Sure.
Did you have anything you wanted to say, first of all, about how things are going, your summer and stuff like that, and then we'll get into questions?
Sure, I could just do some opening comments. Well, I guess first of all, I'd just like to thank you guys for allowing me to be here at your meeting this evening. It's been a pretty busy year, as everybody's aware. We have a new leader, Scott Moe, and I think he's doing a pretty good job. He had big shoes to follow, but he seems to be filling them pretty good. As everybody knows, our budget is actually on track to be balanced within our 3-year plan. So we're in the full 2 years of the plan, and we are on track, a little bit ahead of track, to be balanced within the 3 years. Now, of course, once we get there, that doesn't mean there's going to be a spending frenzy, because we're still doing some borrowing. So we still want to be fiscally responsible, as you guys try to here, reduce your debt and still get some stuff done at the same time. So it'll be a balancing act once we do get to balance, but I'm happy to say that we are on track to do that. We continue to fight on the carbon tax front, as everybody's aware. Previous Brad Wall had started that, and Scott Moe is continuing that, has no intention of paying a carbon tax here within the province of Saskatchewan. And we've also started discussions as far as equalization goes, the fairness of it between other provinces. Quebec gets about $19 billion a year, while Saskatchewan actually pays $600 million. They have a balanced budget and we're in a deficit. So there are some things there that need to be talked about, worked out, try to make the formula a little more fair for all provinces across Canada. So that's kind of where we're sitting right now.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Laurie, and I'll open the floor. Councillor Hufford, you had a question?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship, and thank you, MLA Carr, old habits die hard, former Councillor Carr, for being here tonight. And my question and comments relate to this greenhouse gas emission panic that the federal government has us on, and just, I guess, really concerned with the recent announcements of the closure of units 4 and 5 at Boundary Dam, and how that's going to affect our community, and understanding the need for environmentally friendly and doing things, of course, the need to balance the budget, and you know what, we truly appreciate the steadfast support that our premiers have given to these issues, their opposition to the carbon tax, their strong proponents of pipelines east and west. We, along with them, were, critical, I guess, of some of the knee-jerk reaction in neighboring provinces when they were closing coal-fired power plants down and coal mines, and the negative effects that come along with, and I guess very appreciative of the line that was drawn in the sand in Saskatchewan, that we are going to stand strong against these initiatives. And it just seems a little bit like with 4 and 5, we're now on the wrong side of that line just a little bit, and I wonder if it's a bit too quick of a decision. I am very concerned with the decision in light of what is seemingly a changing climate in the federal government, that in a couple of years we might have a more agreeable federal government to our provincial government, and maybe there is something that can be done there to extend the life and extend the future of coal mining in Estevan, at least a little more certainly, and perhaps extend the lives of 4 and 5. And I think the concerns become greater when the closure was done, I think, unless, and that'll be one of my questions at the end, but I believe it was done without an economic impact assessment on our community, without a mitigation plan, without a guarantee that our future will certainly include carbon sequestration plants in Unit 6 and at the Shan Power Station. I think that would have helped it a little bit more. I'm not sure if there was a cost comparison on the cost of keeping these units 4 and 5 going into the future versus the cost it's going to have on our community. I think just the jobs announced, 45 jobs at Sask Power. I don't know if we have any exact tallies, but if it's the same amount of jobs at the coal mine, we're talking $10 million in salary, and it's good to hear you're going to help some of those people transition out or do it through attrition. But at the end of the day, those are perhaps 100+ jobs, really good jobs lost in our community. There are tens of millions of dollars in the direct impacts and in the spin-off impacts, and so I think that is of great concern to us. The businesses in town, the housing market, everything else that's going to get affected in that. So it really is, alarming to find ourselves on the opposite line of that line in the sand. And I think in the announcements or somewhere along the line, Minister Duncan has said clean coal-fired power plants are still under consideration for the future, but I don't believe there's a guarantee. And it would just hate for us to be the pioneer of such technology in our province and not have a certain future of that in light of the closures of these power plants. And I guess everyone gets the need to be environmentally conscious. I just don't think it's a problem you fix overnight. I think it's a 50-year solution that you need to build for that to change society, and we're not the only country in there, so I don't know how significant Unit 4 and 5 are in the grand scheme of things in the world or in Canada, but that compared to the devastating effects on our community, I really think we need some more discussion on this, and hopefully that decision, can be revisited. I know Your Worship has requested a meeting with the Premier and the Minister at the last meeting, so if that's a month ago or close to a month ago now, and I don't know if there's a meeting question, but I guess, so to make a long story short, if I could leave you with some questions to maybe find the answers to and get back to us. Is there a community impact assessment, or can we request a community impact assessment as to what the economic cost of closing Units 4 and 5 are to our community? Did we measure the cost of this compared to the cost of closing 4 and 5? I know at a meeting the minister was at couple of weeks before the announcement, there was penalties to be paid if we didn't close or meet the federal guidelines there of $5 million, and I think whether it's 5 or 10 million, that cost is going to pale in comparison to the economic cost to our community. And do you think, I guess I'd like, we would like to have the discussion with the province to maybe ask, is it reasonable to ask to keep this dialogue going on Units 4 and 5 in light of the fact, until there's a mitigation plan, until there's an economic assessment, until there's a guarantee for clean coal, and perhaps to wait and see what the results of the next federal election, when we seemingly may have a government that is more in line with our provincial government, and maybe some progress can be made on perhaps even salvaging Units 4 and 5 and keep them going in the future. I think it's something that's that important to our community that we need to try and keep this dialogue going. And I guess the last comment would be is to hopefully get the meeting with the Premier and the Minister as soon as humanly possible. Thanks. Thanks again for being here.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments, Councillor Hoffert. I don't disagree with a lot of what you had to say. As far as I saw the letter that came requesting the meeting, I think it came about 3 weeks ago, and I'm sure that you will get the opportunity to meet with the Premier and probably the Minister. I know that the Premier is going to be in Estevan on, I believe it's October the 13th already for a different engagement. So maybe there's a possibility of piggybacking off of that. That's a Saturday, actually. I don't believe a community impact assessment has been done as far as the government of Saskatchewan has done, how it's going to directly affect the city of Estevan. And I completely understand that not only from these units possibly closing, or their plan to close, I guess, in 2021 and 2024 respectively, it will have a trickle-down effect on not only the mines as well as subcontractors, and that goes right out to people have less money to spend. It affects our restaurants, our car dealerships. It affects everything in the economy as a whole. And I'm pretty sure, if I recall correctly, the Chamber of Commerce had actually crunched some really good numbers on that. I believe probably the work has already been done as far as that from the Chamber of Commerce, but I will task to find out exactly what that would look like. We are working right now on trying to get an equivalency agreement with the federal government, and we're trying to make that work so that the emissions are based on a system basis, so all of the units would be treated as one instead of each individual unit, meaning that our carbon capture unit could actually share some of its savings with some of the other units to make them viable over the years, even if they don't get transformed to carbon capture. That's the goal with the equivalency agreement. Of course, it's in negotiations and there's no guarantee where that will end up exactly. But our goal is absolutely to continue to have coal as the mix for the province of Saskatchewan. And my goal would be to see all of our units stay open at the end of the day. As far as units 4 and 5 go right now, they're 150 megawatt units. To pay the penalties and keep them open, you know, that's a question that needs to be answered by someone higher up than me. But if the units stay open, they're going to need to be overhauled at the cost of millions, like hundreds of millions of dollars to keep those units open. So, you know, there's a lot of analysis that would have to go into that if those two stayed open. But we do have unit 6 at 300 megawatts and we do have Shand at 300 megawatts. And so those possibilities are definitely there. I know that they're continuing to work on test cases for retrofitting both of those units, trying to figure out the cost of them, what it will look like going down the road. Something that would truly help us out is if other countries would accept carbon capture and start using the technology. Right now, we are one of 2 plants probably in the world that are post-combustion that are using this type of technology. If all new coal plants that were built had the regulations that they had to put this on, you know, you can still use coal, but you need this technology to use it, it would become supply and demand. There would be a lot more people using it. The cost of the amine would come down. People would be competitive. More people would be getting in the business of doing it. Right now, we're on a little island of our own right now. Having said that, I truly believe that there is room for coal in the future here in Estevan.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hoffert. Thank you, Laurie. And of course, it is a large concern, and we look forward to talking to the Premier, Minister Duncan, and yourself, have continuing discussions. I know in Alberta they're looking at, they seem to be in league with the federal government as far as shutting down coal by 2030. And I believe they're looking at $40 million to help transition the workers. So I guess depending how much the negative impact is through our discussions moving forward, it's something that we would like to see through working with your government, and that is maybe increase our manufacturing base and get other areas moving that will employ people so that we don't see the negative impact so much. Because even at 100 jobs, those are all $100,000 plus jobs. That's a huge impact to our community for sure. Councillor Travis? Frank, sorry.
And that's a little bit of what I wanted to mention, what you just said there, Your Worship, on the more maybe pessimistic side of Greg. I 100% agree. I would love to see 4 and 5 stay open, but assuming that they're going to close, assuming that anything else happens to our coal plants, whatever the future of technology outside of coal is, it's less employment. Natural gas is not going to have nearly as many people, and solar or anything else is substantially less. So what I'd like to hear from the province is that if whatever the direction may be, and heck, even if we get the coal, we'd love this too. I know you guys have programs in place to be attracting new industry and things like that to the province. I'd really like to see that come to Estevan instead of just Regina, Saskatoon, or anywhere else. So anything we can do to see some of those investments coming here would be really appreciated, and any way we can work with you to make that happen would be great.
No, absolutely. I think those are fair comments to be made. Obviously, when you run a business of your own, you get to choose where you want to live and what center you want it to be in. But I personally think Estevan could be an attractive place for them to do business. So, you know, I would fight for if we had industry that was going to be happening and an opportunity for it to be here, I would be the first one knocking at their door saying, this is a great place to do business.
And I would hope just further to that, that if an opportunity shows up to the province and you're looking at city, or they're looking at cities, the province can know that in Estevan, I think, speaking for myself at least, we'd be very open to whatever it takes to get them here, so.
No, absolutely. If they were shopping around for a place to be, and I would throw Estevan at them, and of course, between our Chamber of Commerce and I know the City of Estevan, you guys would put a package together why they should be doing business here.
Absolutely.
Because you've done that in the past with some success at some things, and absolutely.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Frank, Councillor Nibbs.
Hi, thanks for coming. One thing I just wanted some clarification on. We did have our MP here. I was understanding the Sask party was fighting the carbon tax, but he made it sound inevitable that January 1st, the carbon tax takes effect. I haven't really read anything, but that is what he had told us. What do you know about that, and what can you fill us in on?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. The carbon tax will take effect January the 1st. Having said that, we are going to have our case within the courts at that point in time. We won't have been there yet because it's not going to happen quite that fast. So I guess if they decide in their transfer payments not to transfer money to us and call that a carbon tax, there will be nothing we can do about that in the short term. But we will not willingly be sending them any money on behalf of the province of Saskatchewan or its people till we hear that court case out.
So what about the dollars that we send? Can we withhold any of that coming back, like equalization payments or anything like that?
That just all comes out of the transfer payments that they send to us. So for example, if they were going to send us, this is just an example because I don't know the numbers, if they were going to send us $1 billion, well then they're only going to send us 400 million because they're going to take off equalization and they're going to take off carbon tax and they're going to take off whatever they want before they actually send us our transfer payments.
So do they know the dollar that the carbon tax will be withholding? Do we
No,
know
they
that
don't.
amount?
We do not. Yeah. I mean, we're estimating in the amount of $1 billion a year cost minimum to the province of Saskatchewan. So is that what they'll withhold? I don't know.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Councillor Nibbs. Councillor Moore?
Thank you, Your Worship. Laurie, thanks for coming. And I know you worked really hard to get where you are and to present us. And with that, I need some action on a situation. And that is, we have a restaurant in town that's been here. The family's been here since the 60s. They've been trying for a number of years to get a off-sale license. And when I say they've been trying for a couple, 4 or 5 years, and they've been denied, they haven't got it. Meanwhile, the derrick should shut down. There's a license there. Others have come to town and got a license, and they're operating. These folks would like a license because it would fit well with their deliveries. The rules for drinking now, a lot of people would like to have a case of beer taken with them or delivered with the pizza when they go to your house. They can't do that. I just wonder, why are we taking so long and so many obstacles for our own people to try and get a license that they should have had a long time ago? The communication's not great. I've seen what's been going on, and I believe you and me, I will not be leaving this alone till that particular family gets that, and whatever it takes from people that I know to push the issue, because if it were me, I'd be calling you every day. And I need to know what has happened and why are we taking so long to help these folks out.
Okay, I'm aware of the situation that you're talking about. When the derrick closed, their license did lapse before they were able to sell their hotel with the license, because the license would have gone with that, but that didn't happen. In the meantime, there was an election in 2016, and one of the election promises was to privatize 52 liquor stores and hand some licenses out that way. And that license that happens to be in Estevan, and it's not the only one, there are a few licenses across the province, got caught in that period, okay? So I've spoke with the owners. October 9th is the day that this license is going to become available, as far as I'm aware. There will be a fair and open process for anybody, whatever the process is going to be. I can't say that that family is just going to automatically get that license, no matter how much I think they're the best business in Estevan, and I think it would fit with their business perfectly. I can't guarantee that they're going to get it. They'll go through the process of applying for that license, following whatever the guidelines are, and if they're the successful applicant at the end of the day, then absolutely fantastic. But I can't sit here and guarantee that they're going to get it, Dennis.
Well, even with other businesses starting up, and they got the license because they were supposed to be a pub, which they were not, they still got a license. So, you know, there's, I guess it's who does the most squealing that gets the license. And it's really none of my business, but they've made it my
No.
business. And because they're local people, and they hire people, and they pay taxes, and they're trying to run a better business than what they're running, which is already very good, I think they deserve some attention. And up to this point, I don't think they've really got the attention that they deserve. Like, it's just taken forever. So whatever you can do to help out, I would really appreciate it, and I think the city and the
Absolutely.
residents would do the same, because it just makes sense now. You can only have one beer wherever you are. But if you want to take a case home, they got to step out and go somewhere else to get that case of beer. Besides that, they're paying 16% more than the other places, because the other places that have the ticket get their booze for 16% less. So, I mean, there's just all kinds of reasons why we should go to bat for these folks. Now, if I have a minute or two on health issue, because I'm going through a pretty serious health issue as we sit here, I want you to know that I was in Regina, had a couple of scans done, and at the end of the day, at the end of a 6-hour day, they said to me, your results will be known in 4 weeks. I said, folks, I'm in Regina now, I'm not in Estevan. What's with the time? Well, we haven't got enough people to read the scans. But if you'd have had it done in Saskatoon, you'd have known the results before the end of the week. I said, well, why wouldn't we get some of the Saskatoon people to help us out in Regina? They go, well, that's not going to happen. So, you know, we have really good frontline people doing work for us, making sure that we get looked after when we get to the clinics or the hospitals or the cancer clinic, whatever you're doing. But we don't have the system running like it should. At the same time, I'm told there's people sitting around waiting to find out what job they're going to get after we downsized and got one health unit instead of how many we had, getting paid a good salary, and they're sitting waiting to find out what their job's going to be. Ever since then, I don't know if you know this or not, but this didn't come from people in the street, this come from people within the system. So, you know, there's opportunities for you to step up and make a difference, a big difference, in a couple issues that I'm just mentioning tonight. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, I'm just saying that, you know, whatever you're doing it for us and the rest of the province. But those are things that some people are a little too quiet to say anything. But somebody's got to say something, so I'll leave both those with you that...
Well, no, absolutely. Actually, you're not putting me on the spot, because you've talked to me about both of these things before, not too long ago. And I did take it forward, and I asked the question about the scans, and, you know, if there's someone not reading here and it's happening faster and it's slower here, why aren't we working on that together? And they assured me that they would look at that and that they would see why. Now with one health system, we're not in all of these little silos where everybody has their own job. And that's exactly what this health, the One Health Authority was supposed to help out with. So, I mean, I wasn't too terrible long ago we talked about this. So I did ask the question, and they told me they would look at it and see how they could make it work better.
Well, I personally watched them stamp each one of 4 papers with a red stamp saying urgent, urgent, urgent. As of today, I'm still waiting for the results.
Yeah.
Like, that's how ugly it is. And I'm not the only guy. I mean, there's
No,
all
for
kinds of people. But I'm just saying that the people that we're working with are doing a superb job.
Yeah.
It's the system that's failing everybody because they haven't got it together. And I'm not saying that across the board, but in this particular case, in the cancer clinic, I tell you, it just, it's nerve-wracking that you have
I'll
to
follow
say.
up on it again.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for coming out.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Moore. Yeah, I know another one, Laurie, that you've been dealing with cancer as well was Melissa Petzel. And she was dealing in, I believe, Regina, or was it Saskatoon? It might have been Saskatoon. but they couldn't do a lot in the summer because all the doctors were on holidays. Why wouldn't they schedule the doctors like they do at a mine or a power corporation? Only 2 per department can go at any one time. Why would they shut down the department and let all the doctors go on holidays in the summertime? Why wouldn't they do some scheduling? That I don't understand, but maybe that's something else that.
I can address that a little bit. I mean, I would hope that in a department, the doctors would work together and not schedule holidays all at the same time. Having said that, doctors are actually businessmen of their own. They run their own business. They're not actually hired employees. So if they say, I'm going to go away in this time slot, then they get to go. And a lot of times it doesn't work to the
To our
best.
advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. And we keep having ongoing conversations on trying to make things work smoother, but at the end of the day, they are still their own boss.
Okay. And one other thing that's come up in our city with the Savor of the Southeast, with the liquor laws, was we can run, what is it, Jeff, 2 hours in a row, then everybody has to leave? Explain how that works. It's very upsetting.
Yes, Your Worship. I know there's been a lot of things in SLGA that have become very hard to deal with. There has been requests, so anything that's in now a city facility, even though we've given a blanket approval to the SLGA, they said, no, that's not suitable. So even things like the provincial eel swimming, they now needed permits, resolutions from council, last minute. A lot of this stuff is very cumbersome, and I know the Savor the Southeast group had a lot of issues fighting with the trade show permit compared to the cabaret permit too. And it seems like these rules are being put in place with no real explanation, and it's ruining events that are raising $45,000 back to non-for-profits in our community that would normally need to be funded from taxpayers or province. And now they're almost not worth doing because of dealing with SLGA and some of the provincial regulations. So I know it was a huge issue, and that probably part of the reason that the committee has wanted to move it to someone else operating it. So
Thank you, City Manager. Yeah, that was it, Laurie. The trade show, they had the trade show where they have all these vendors, and then everybody in the building had to leave because then they had the cabaret. So I guess now we'll have to have a cabaret in a separate building and have everybody move to keep within the liquor laws. Everybody had to leave the building and then come back in.
Okay, if you don't mind, if, I guess probably it would be Josh, could get
Yes.
me the specifics of, you know, the liquor license and how that all worked exactly, then I can take that, I guess, case study to SLGA and say, this is a nonprofit organization trying to do the right thing. They want to work within the confines of your rules, but this is just a little bit over the top. Because seriously, from what I hear, it's a bit over the top, and there's no reason you shouldn't be able to run them concurrently in the same building.
Exactly.
So if you could get that to me, and then I can send it in and
Okay.
try and find a solution to make things.
Okay, thank you, Larry. One last thing, and then I'll turn it over to Councillor Vroba, and we have talked about this. In reassessment years, 2 things. If we could get reassessment quicker, every 2 years instead of every 4, and when we do the reassessment, if we could limit the increases to 30%, because a lot of our commercial buildings, a lot of our people were hurt this last reassessment, and you and I have talked about this quite a bit. Some over doubled. And it's just simply too much for the average, person to take. So if you could take that back as well.
I will.
Thank you. Councillor Vroba.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Laurie, for coming tonight.
You're welcome.
Actually, my question is more along with healthcare. We have seniors in our community, and well, not just seniors, but a lot of people accessing home care. And home care is there to keep them in their homes longer so that they're not having to be placed in a hospital or placed in long-term care. But what I'm seeing is a lot of home care services are being cut back. And I know when I go to SUMA and I hear in the convention that more money is going towards healthcare, home care, more money is going towards mental health. But I deal with seniors and I see that on a daily basis. There's a real struggle for them to gain access to mental health and also with their home care services. I know it's an assessed service, but I find sometimes they're getting a service and then all of a sudden it's cut back. And I know there's an appeal process, but someone who's in their 80s and 90s, they don't understand that. There's not a lot of people out there advocating for them, and it's a tough scenario, especially if you don't have family members or you don't have someone that can speak for you. You don't know where to go, so you just end up going without. And I find sometimes the system forgets that they're human and they just do them by the number, they do them by what is expected. And I've had to advocate over the years quite a few times. And I feel it's getting more and more towards where it's just who you are, your statistics, your numbers, and basically end of story, versus who you are as a person and what you can actually do for yourself. So I just feel like there just needs to be more looked into, even if you could look into, find out, say how many hours 5 years ago or 10 years ago were done in a home care system in Estevan versus the hours, service hours today. I think you'll see a decline, and yet our population is rising in the age. And that might be a good starting point for you to see where if the healthcare dollars are being increased in the home care department, are they, in which area kind of thing? And I think if you can just go out there and talk to some seniors, you'll find that they're being cut versus giving more.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Broga. That is a good point. In fact, the police, I'm not sure, Laurie, of the exact statistics, but 60 to 70% of what they deal with are mental health issues. It's very unfortunate. Councillor Yanish?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks for coming, Laurie. I have one question. Seems like SLGA has a lot of power in the province that nobody actually has any say to, even you as members. I have a question that I've been asked lots, is on the marijuana licensing. And it was supposed to be a lottery, from what we were told.
It was a lottery.
Right. On a lottery, how does one person win 3 spots? Next one wins 5. One wins 2. And another person gets 1. So you didn't seem meeting, that person took 3 different places where you had how many people from Estevan applied. We heard, what was it, 50 or 60? And nobody even local got a chance. Where you had one person have 3 different cities. That to me seemed a little different.
So it was done fair and it was an open process. Unfortunately for communities like the city of Estevan, when those 60 names went into the hat, it wasn't an Estevan business that came out. Mm-hmm. You know? I mean, I guess there could have been 2 retailers here in the city of Estevan and we only have 1. So I guess had there been 2, maybe we would have got an Estevan business out of that. Having said that, it truly was a fair and open process. And the only way we could have changed that is if within the rules, when they made them up, if they said that they were going to limit the applications for the city of Estevan to people that lived here. Mm-hmm. For the city of Regina to people that live there. But that's not what they did. It was open up to business right across. Okay. And we have an agreement with the provinces of BC and Alberta that say we cannot discriminate against someone from being from a different location if they're coming in and they have all their licensing and they're bidding fair, to keep the process open as far as that goes too. So unfortunately, here we sit.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Yanish, and we'll allow Councillor Vroba for one more question, and then we'll get on with the meeting. And Laurie, this wasn't scripted; it's just all questions we had.
No,
so
absolutely.
You handled yourself very well. So thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to clarify, Laurie, that with that second license, we basically acted as a council on a recommendation from the police board, from the police chief, and we are still actively looking at that second license. We're not in the business of turning away businesses. We want to tread lightly into an area that none of us know what it's going to bring to the community. Basically, my question, I guess, is, will those original 50 or 60 go back in the lottery, or will this now, when we go to a second license, if we go to a second license, will it be open to a brand new 50 or 60, or will the same 50 or 60 just be left in that hat?
I have no idea, but I will find out for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, again, thank you so much, Laurie, for coming this evening. I think we had some very good questions, and we appreciate and know that you'll give responses to our questions.
Yep.
So,
thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Perhaps you might want to come more often, because this has been good. I mean, lots of questions.
I'm open to an invitation anytime
Okay.
you would like me here.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Good night. You're welcome to stay, but you've probably been at enough meetings.
Well, since I'm going to Regina, I'm probably going to head out, but
Okay.
thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Okay, next, could we have a motion, please, to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Hoffert, seconded by Councillor Yanish. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, could we have a motion, please, to accept the minutes of the council meeting held on June 11th, 2018? Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Nibs. Any questions? If not, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under original communications, delegations, and petitions, we have the appointment of Trudy Firth from City Controller to City Treasurer. So I know, Trudy, you'll have a small speech ready for us, but we would like to congratulate you. You've done a stellar job for us. And under the city manager's direction, he has suggested that we move you to City Treasurer. So that shows a lot of confidence, not only from him, but of course from council. And we know that you'll do a fantastic job. So thank you for that. So do we have a motion to that effect, please? Thank you, Councillor Nibs, seconded by Councillor Frank. Any questions? If not, all in favor? And a round of applause. Golf clap. Welcome aboard. Welcome to the new title. I know you'll do well, Trudy. Thank you. Okay, next, under original communications, delegations, and petitions, we have from GFL the CART report for May. Could we have a motion, please, to adopt that as presented? Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Frank. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under original communications, delegations, and petitions, we have from the Cuernavaca School special events permit for September 8th. What's the wish of council on this? Councillor Vroba.
I think it's a great idea. I just had one question. Thank you, Your Worship. I was just wondering, is this a school that's in Mexico as a fundraiser? I was trying to find out what it was for.
You know, that's a very good question. I'm not sure myself. Can anybody? Oh, it is?
It is, yeah. I looked it up online, and I think it's a school in Mexico, and I also believe you can buy the tickets for this fundraiser at Kendall's Auto Electric, and it's a piano duel, I believe.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Dueling pianos, yes.
Thank you, Roberta, for clarifying that. Appreciate that.
So I would like to make the recommendation that we proceed with allowing them.
Thank you, Councillor Vroba. Have we got a seconder? Councillor Nibs. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under original communications, delegations, and petitions, we have SETP committee minutes, Southeast Transportation Planning Committee. Do we have a motion for that, please, to accept that? Thank you, Councillor Hoffert. Seconded by Councillor Nibs. Councillor Moore, did you have anything to add?
Thank you, Your Worship. Only that last week we sent a letter to the department, and we were re-stressing for us in this area, Highway 47. For immediately, it's Highway 47 South that we'd like to see some work on, but right up to number one is what we're concerned about. We still think we're losing a lot of business. We're not getting the traffic that we should, and so we put a pretty good package together to let them know how we feel about it, and we will have a major meeting with all 11 departments in September, and we'll see just how we rate out as to who's going to get priorities and how much money we're going to get to spend. But we need to have this 15 kilometers looked after from Estevan to the border as well. And for our own good safety's sake, that's what we put our emphasis on. But the total 47 needs some attention, so.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Councillor Moore, and thank you for being in our corner and fighting for the roads in our area. Thank you for that. Yep. All in favor? Carried. Next, under written reports of committees, we have none this evening. Executive reports, we have from the City Clerk, MEPP Commission appointment, Ashley Stradisky from Yorkton. Now, that's a gentleman, I believe, has put his name forward. City Clerk?
That is correct, Your Worship. The 5 city clerks have been communicating back and forth. This is the only person that has been willing to step forward. All the other cities have approved him, and are doing council resolution. And actually, the city manager knows who this person is.
Yeah, I guess he has a pretty good pedigree, and he's not too bad a person. So the city manager can vouch for him. So if he turns out really bad, then the city manager, I'm sure, will answer for that. Councillor Hopper, just joking.
Acceptance and approval, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. We got a seconder? Okay, Councillor Frank, any further questions? All in favor? Carried. Next, under executive reports, we have from Fire Services, a monthly report for June and July. Could we have a motion to accept those? Councillor Yanish, seconded by Councillor Vroba. Any further questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under executive reports, we have from the WTP Water Treatment Plant Manager, Water Quality Report for July 2018. Could we have a motion, please, to accept that? Councillor Hoffert, seconded by Councillor Yanish. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, from the Water Treatment Plant Manager, we have awarding contract for raw water line tender. So Shane, if you wanted to step up to the mic, please, and give us a brief overview. I see you have Kafloon for backup, or I see your protection tonight. Both. Both? Okay, good, good. So please, if you could go ahead and give us a brief overview of what happened there on our tender.
Thank you, Your Worship. Basically, as part of the Canada Grants funding program, we received money to go towards building the residual ponds and then the construction of a new raw water line from Rafferty Dam to the water treatment plant. So for this process, we worked it a little different way to figure out who our bidders were. First off, we had an open where everyone was able to come in to give their pre-qualifications. And from that, we limited it down to a list of 6 people who would submit their tenders. From their tenders, we received ranging from 14 million up to originally 38 million, and that has been brought down to 14 million. They combined 2 pipelines in there for some reason when they submitted. Because of this, we originally have funding for $8 million, and the city is on the would have to pay for the rest, which would be around $7 million to cover the rest of it. From those, I would suggest that we, at this time, disregard old tenders and then move on to the next step to either figuring out from a design standpoint, environmental standpoint of different things that we could do to get this project going ahead at a more reasonable number.
Okay, thank you, Shane. Questions or comments? Councillor Hoffert.
Yeah, I guess a couple that is quite alarming, Your Worship. I'm sure we would all agree on that. Is there, if it takes us a substantial amount of time to regroup, maybe this is a question to the city clerk or the city manager, is there risk of losing the provincial and federal funding that I believe was one third on this? And is it worth consideration to bring in the low bidder and talk to him about it and to see what, if anything, can be done about this? Like, I understand the low bidders.
Absolutely, City Manager.
Thank Your Worship to Councillor Hoffert. So we have been in contact with the province, as this is uncharted territory for us, that the estimates provided by the engineering firm were so much lower than the actual tenders that came in. They did confirm that they wouldn't up the increase of funding on the one third, but it did sound like there was a timetable to 2021, so we could talk to some of the essential bidders and change some of those timelines to bring down the cost. There is some environmental impact areas in regards to species, and that's why work had to be done in the winter, which increased the cost substantially, so we'll probably be talking to the province on that as well. There has been a consolidation in a lot of the pipe companies, so the estimate for the piping was a big issue. That now we'd like to now try to talk to the lowest bidder.
So is this something we would table before we talk to the lowest bidder and see what can be done?
Yeah.
Like, so not reject the tenders tonight and not walk away from it necessarily?
I think these volumes are too high. I think what we would do is we reject these tenders, and now that we've done the tendering process, we can potentially consult with one of the bidders.
We do have the right to continue consultation after we refuse these.
No, that's good, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, anyone else? Okay, so what we'll be asking for tonight is to refuse these tenders, and then we'll start a dialogue with Shane and the city manager with the lower bidders in an effort to salvage this, because as everyone knows, we do need that pipeline.
Your worship, one more.
Go ahead.
I know there are new grant programs coming out next year, although they won't add to the one that was approved a year or two ago. Could we piggyback with one that's coming out this year, like submit our application for the remaining amount? Or, I mean, it's probably a long shot, but it might be worth asking the question.
Well, that's the type of thinking, Councillor Hoffert, that we're looking at, thinking a bit outside the box. We're even thinking of doing the pipeline, correct, city manager? Getting that done, and then the pump house, do it separately?
Yeah, your worship. So the funding's committed, but based on the pricing, we could look at doing it as two separate projects and make sure that the province would still be in for funding on there. So we do have some legwork to do to see how we're going to make this work, and I know Shane is hard at work already figuring some of that out.
We've got our top people on it, Councillor Hoffert, so we feel comfortable we'll arrive at that. So do we have a motion, please, to refuse the tenders as submitted? Thank you. Councillor Nibbs. Seconded by Councillor Yanish. Any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Your worship, as discussed, I need to excuse myself for unavoidable work commitment I got to front to.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hoffert. Let it be noted that Councillor Hoffert has to leave, but will be back shortly. Next, under executive reports, we have from Land Development, discretionary use application of 1302, 1322 7th Street. Thank you, Richard. If you'd step up to the plate. Did you want to give a brief overview, please, to council?
Good evening. Good evening, Councillor, Your Worship, Administration. Yeah, this first permit, it's for a place of worship. It's been operating in the building there since last fall, early winter. And they're just trying to make everything legal and what have you right now, as well as doing some renovations. It was referred out, no comments or complaints from any of the neighborhood, so.
Okay, thank you. And you made a good comment in your report as well. You said the parking shouldn't be an issue because they have been using that building for a number of months and there hasn't been an issue to date, so.
Yeah.
And your recommendation then is subject to the following conditions. Development shall commence within 1 year of the date of the development permit, failing which a development permit shall cease. Number 2, the developer is responsible for maintaining the site and area surrounding the site in good condition at all times, including containment, removal and disposal of all construction debris, and cleaning dirt and associated debris of public boulevards and streets. It's the responsibility of the developer to carry out and pay for any damage caused to public utilities or infrastructure resulting from development of the lots, whether such damage is caused by general or subcontractors. And number 3, the site is to be landscaped to ensure that all surface runoff is either contained on site or directed to an approved off-site location, such as road ditch, drainage easement, or storm sewer. All runoff to an off-site location shall be to Saskatchewan environmental standards with respect to pollutants and turbidity. So, thank you so much for the report. What's the wish of council? Councillor Nibbs, acceptance and approval, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Frank, thank you. Any further comment or discussion? If not, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Next, we have from Land Development, again, discretionary use application for 902 2nd Street.
Thanks. This permit is for a secondary suite on top of a detached garage. The garage is something that would not normally require a permit under our bylaws. It's dealt with by our building official, but because of the secondary suite, that triggered it. That was again referred out, and no comments or concerns were raised, at least not in writing. There was one phone call concerned about parking. Parking should be satisfactory on this one with the development plan that they have submitted. So we're also recommending approval subject to standard conditions.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Again, it's all spelled out in your report. What's the wish of council? Councillor Frank?
I just have one quick question there.
Okay.
Is this going to be for rental property or do we know or have it?
The secondary suite could be rented out or it could be a family member.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not. Okay. Acceptance and approval.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Moore, seconded. Any further questions? If not, all in favor? Carried, thank you. And again, from Richard, Land Development, Siller Street Amendment to allow semi-detached housing. Richard?
Thank you. This proposal came in from a developer that owns those properties, and they're having trouble selling them. As you may be aware, Siller Street is just on the north side of the main line for the CPR, and those lots haven't been selling. What they're looking at trying to do is if they could get approval to build duplexes where the lot line would go down the common wall, they wouldn't increase the dwelling density at all on those properties, but at the same time, a duplex is cheaper to build per square foot normally than a regular detached house. And so they're hoping that they'd be able to drop the housing costs down a little bit and then make those buildings a little bit more saleable.
And affordable. Yeah.
And affordable. I'm not sure what the reaction is going to be from the neighboring residences, especially in the cul-de-sac at Matchett Bay. But I guess there's one way to find out, so.
Yeah, if we give first reading, then we'll get feedback from our public for 2 weeks, and then we can revisit it. Councillor Vroba?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for the report. Also, I think it's a great idea because, again, we already have the Habitat for Humanity house down there. The other two homes on the end aren't extravagantly big or anything. They're more of a regular average home. So I just feel like the duplexes, even if they build a couple of them and figure out if they're going to sell, that's what needs to be built right now is affordable housing, new affordable housing. And I think it's a great idea, and it also helps the developer to continue with his development because it is a great development, and hopefully more people will notice that and start to buy lots there. So I would like acceptance and approval.
Okay,
also.
thank you, Councillor Vroba, for that. Have we got a seconder? Councillor Frank, any further questions or comments? Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Worship. So this is to be built on one lot then? These duplexes on one lot?
The lot line would go down the middle of the duplex, so one side on the one lot would be half a duplex, and the other lot would be half a duplex, and they would meet along the party line. That's a building technique that I've worked with quite extensively in the past. So the end result is the number of homes per lot will be the same as if it was a bungalow, for example.
So each has their own separate sewer line then?
They have to have their separate utilities, separate ventilation system, everything.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good question though. Thank you, Councillor Moore. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Richard. So moving forward on that end, we will be asking now for bylaw 2018 first reading, 2005 bylaw to amend zoning providing housing types on Siller Street. First reading this evening. Have we got a motion for that, please? Councillor Nibbs, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Moore. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under public hearings and reports, we have none this evening. Giving notice, none this evening. Motions from committee, we have none this evening. Under consideration of bylaws, we have bylaw 2018-2003, bylaw to establish the Development Appeals Board. We'd like to give second and third reading this evening. City Clerk, we've advertised for a couple of weeks. Have we heard anything back?
Nothing, Your Worship.
Nothing? Okay, so we would like to give second and third readings this evening. So could we have a motion, please, for second reading of bylaw 2018-2003? Thank you, Councillor Yanish, seconded by Councillor Vroba. Any questions? If not, all in favor? Carried. And now could we have third reading and adoption for use, please, of bylaw 2018-2003, bylaw to establish a Development Appeals Board. Thank you, Councillor Frank. Seconded, Councillor Yanish. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Inquiries, Councillor Vroba.
thank you, Your Worship. I was just looking it up here for Souris Valley Theatre. I don't know if anyone went and seen our last play, but we now.
Ours got canceled, it was too hot, but
Well, on Saturday night, yes.
Yeah.
I was actually away on holidays, and so Maureen Ulrich is the playwright for this play, and it's called Pirate's Heart. And right now is the second week for it, so you need to go down before this Saturday. So again, it's on Tuesday to Saturday, and I think there's a matinee also on Thursday. So
At
if you're
2,
interested
that's
in
right.
that. Yeah, so yes, I recommend everybody go and see it. It's a fantastic play, and I'll be down there tomorrow night helping out, volunteering at the door, so you can come see me then.
thank you, Councillor Vroba, and they've had tremendous plays down there, including their live entertainment, just exceptional.
Actually, yeah, they just had the Doe family and the Petersons. They came from the States, and they were fabulous. It was actually a sold-out crowd. We had to put in
Yes.
extra seats down there, and also Tennille Arts, who just opened up for Reba McEntire. And unfortunately, she was not a sold-out crowd, but it should have been.
Well, should have
And
been.
I'm not sure why it didn't. Maybe the heat kept people away that day too. But she was a fabulous act that night, and so hopefully, maybe one day we'll get her back. But she'll be at Affinity Place when she comes next time.
Yes, exactly. No, great entertainment this year. Please come out and see them. Thank you. Councillor Yanish, nothing? Okay, thank you. Councillor Frank?
I just want to remind everybody that to get your tickets for the Hospital Foundation Lottery, the tickets are on sale at our website, sjhf.org/lottery. Sorry, that's not one I'm appointed to on council, but I get to say it because I'm paid to. And then also I'm being mouthed to remember the rodeo is coming up here right away, so make sure you check that out. So.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Frank. Good stuff. Councillor Nibbs?
Nothing, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Moore?
Thank you, Worship. Just need to remind the public that if they have a street light out, it's as simple as phoning SaskTel or SaskPower, and they will come and replace that in pretty quick order. I just mentioned that because over our way there's been 2 out for a long time, and I'm just wondering if the residents know that it's that easy to get it looked after. So just a reminder, that's all.
Okay, very good. Thank you. City Manager?
Thank you, Worship. Just to add to Councillor Moore's, there is a SaskPower app. I know when SaskPower came down, they showed us some of the abilities of that app. You can actually go street light troubles and click on. You can zoom in, click on the light, and put report issues. So if people don't want to get on a phone at SaskPower or something, there is the new technology and app to report it as well.
Okay, super. Thank you, City Manager. Anything else this evening? City Clerk?
Nothing, Your Worship.
City Treasurer? Nothing? Okay. I just have a little bit under inquiries. We have a letter from Mr. Russ Brown. I'd just like to read it. He's in West Bank, BC. Mayor and City Council. Dear Mayor and City Council, I want to personally thank you for recognizing my father with the naming of Brown Road. Like other members of Dad's family, your kindness in doing so is greatly appreciated. How appropriate that Brown Road and the picture in the Mercury show the Boundary Dam power station in the background. I can still recall a beaming father when it was commissioned and touring the facility with him when he was a minister in charge of the Saskatchewan Power Corporation, and how proud he was. While I never lived in Estevan, I have many fond memories of visiting there. I recall times at the old Empire Hotel and smile back when I think of Dad being a hotel keeper. Now, not many of you would remember the Empire. I do remember going by it, okay? And his dad, Ernie, sitting in the pub and writing poems about Estevan. I think of Dad getting a VLA lot and building a home there and putting down roots as part of the community and getting involved in civic politics. He was having the time of his life with a smile that told me that. And when I think of Estevan, I think of my sister Judy and her husband Bob relocating from Regina and running graphic press for many years. Judy and her family still live in Estevan, with her daughter Lisa having taught there and her son-in-law being a former member of your council. So the Brown family, my old dad's family, is still represented in Estevan. Now, can you guess who that councillor was? Councillor Smith. The birth of a grandson and personal circumstances kept me from being with the other members of Dad's family at the August 7th dedication ceremony for Brown Road. I regret not being able to be there with the other members of his family, and thank you again for the honor that you have bestowed. So that was very nice. And P.S., while I haven't lived in Saskatchewan for 42 years, I still wear Ryder green. You gotta like that. And on a more unfortunate note, Mr. Galen Wallmeyer, I'd just like to say a few words. He passed July 26, 2018. Galen died with his soulmate Mary by his side, who's the mother of his children, daughter Veronica, Paul, son Galen, daughter Constance, James, his grandchildren Alisa, Ira, Mitchell, and Jacob. He is survived by 10 sisters and brothers and numerous nieces and nephews. Galen started his teaching career in Regina, as well as playing for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, which included the 1966 Grey Cup win. On retirement, the family moved to Estevan, where Galen continued teaching and served as mayor for 2 terms. Galen served on many charitable and recreational boards. Funeral services will be held at a later date. So Alderman, October 10th, 1973, again, December 15th, 1971, October 24th, 1972, Mayor, October 27th, 1976 to 1979, and October 24th, 1979 to 1982. So he shall be missed, and our condolences go to the family. And last but not least, from the Estevan Humane Society, on behalf of the Estevan Humane Society Board of Directors, I'm pleased to request your presence at the Humane Society's Judy Martin Memorial Duck Derby on September 9th, 2018. This celebration will offer diverse food vendors, activities for children, and entertainment. Festivities will begin at 12 p.m. at the Estevan Dog Park, will conclude at 3 p.m. Among the food vendors offered, we will be selling taco in the bag, baked goods, and pink lemonade. Your involvement would complement the importance of this event. The day will begin with the entertainment. Food vendors, we will be releasing plastic ducks into the river at 1 p.m. We will end this celebration with announcing the winning duck. And good luck to everyone who gets involved. So, with that, do we have a motion to move into committee? Councillor Yanish, seconded by Councillor Debs. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We stand adjourned.